It's what you came here to accomplish. It's also who you're meant to become so that you can make an impact by being yourself. We're all here to unlock our potential and create positive change in the world. Everything starts with you. One is not born into their purpose. One steps into their purpose. Were you born to do it? Let's find out together. Hi everyone, we are going back to school today. I am wearing my hoodie and I'm excited to introduce to you Jackie Scully, who's going to be the teacher today. Hi Jackie.
Hi, good to see you. Thank you so much, Stella, for bringing me on your show. This is going to be so much fun.
This is going to be a lot of fun, especially because this is our first conversation in real life.
Talk about an icebreaker.
But that's the beauty of, connecting online, using social media to connect and exchange ideas. We get to meet like-minded people and meet people who are trying to make the world a better place. And you are one such individual. So I'm very excited to hear your story, talk about the education system, and figure out how we can make the education better, not just for the kids, but also for the adults, because they can use a lesson or two.
Yes, thank you so much for creating this space for people to share what they're doing in the world and giving me this opportunity to share with you. So I'm just very honored to be here.
Very excited to have you. Well, let's dive into it. Born to do it, the guided teacher. I think the first question I want to ask you is, what is good education? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. What makes education good, especially you having been a student, but now a teacher? What's your opinion on this question?
Yes, and if you hear my dog in the background, this is the second time this week I've been on a podcast or show with my dog barking. So that's just life, Billy's in the
Confirmation
background
bark.
barking. Yeah. Well, what makes good education? We definitely need space to create. We are creators. We're meant to be in this world to create in different ways. And it doesn't mean that the creation is just for artists, right? Or musicians or actors, actresses. Like we are all part of that. And so we want children to create and co-create with their teachers or learning facilitators, learning coaches, which is becoming a new kind of buzzword in educational spaces that are more alternative, and give time and space to wrestle with difficult things happening in the world and be problem solvers and collaborate with your peers and, your learning coach, your learning facilitator, and come up with really great solutions and not think that everything's doom and gloom and nothing will ever change, because if we keep thinking like that, it won't. So in good education, in that system, we need space, we need time, we need collaboration. We need to see the student, teacher, learner, learning coach as a team working together. And it needs to be a circle and not like top-down hierarchy, which has been the way it's been in traditional education for a long time, that everyone is welcome at the table and everyone has a voice and something to share. And we can learn a lot from our learners, our young people. They're ready. They are ready for us to meet them where they are and say, will you come and help me heal this world? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do it with you. And I want to learn from you. They know so much more about AI. They don't fear it. They know that there needs to be guidance and balance and all of that. But this Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up, a lot of people don't know the next generation, but I'm about to teach them in a couple of years. They're active on social media. They're activists. They're learning. They're collaborating. They're already going into the metaverse. They're already experimenting and collaborating with AI. They're there. And we're kind of like 10 steps behind, if not more. So we need to be risk takers. And we need to work with our young people. I'm inspired by them every day. I always tell them I'm learning so much from them. And I also ask for help. I ask them, help me understand AI or understand, how you look at the world in this perspective. And they get really excited when you kind of invite them in and say, I need your help. So I think that's good education.
Yeah, and they have the energy to focus on all these innovative ideas, whereas the grown-ups, they have a lot of responsibilities, they need to think about the structures, whereas the kids have more of that creative freedom to come up with things on the spot because they don't have that baggage. And also we carry that baggage as adults because we haven't had the proper education on how to heal, how to do the inner work, which is becoming a little bit more common. But I had my own thinking around what is good education. I came up with three things. First one was education is about learning life skills, which is something that is missing in most schools. We're learning about the history, we're learning about culture, we're learning about certain rules, but the life skills are missing. It's like, this is your education, now you welcome in the real world, but you're not prepared for the real world. And nobody's telling you that the education continues after school as well. And then the second one is education is about developing your own thinking, which is something that you talk about. Being given that space and that encouragement. Yes, go and follow that dream, go and follow that idea. And finally, education is about enjoying the process of learning, which is something that often gets suppressed, I think, because the teachers are kind of being told to follow the curriculum and they feel responsible to do that. But in the process, they kind of suppress that joy from the learning. And so this is kind of what we're looking at when we're thinking about schools today. It's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of separations between the winner and the loser, the competition, the popularity kids, the nerds. Metaverse is helping, but social media is also creating this who has more likes, who has more comments, and that thinking also gets brought into the classroom. And I think one of the biggest aspects to focus on is the logic versus creativity, which is something that we touched on, the right brain, using the right brain. So what is missing in the classroom? What's missing when you look at this picture?
I think we are missing joy. And so I'll plug a little bit. Cindy Cohen's More Joy community that I'm part of, there's been so much conversation about joy. And I see that students are stressed out. They're really dealing with mental health issues. They don't have good coping mechanisms. And when you give them just even a little bit of time to, again, create and have some fun, they see that as so special when that should just be every day, like in a school setting. And so I think joy and having everyone feel like their voice is empowered. Everyone is part of this community and all the voices matter. And so taking away that other or competition and just chasing after something, but more about what are we doing together to build this culture, right? We're all part of it. And so I do a lot of in my classroom where we focus on active listening and how different perspectives, listening to them and really being able to be non-judgmental. And it's okay to disagree. It's how we approach it and it's how we're respectful to one another. But everybody is coming from a place where it's tied to their background, their upbringing, their culture, maybe their religion. And we have to honor and respect those parts of our identity and listen to other people. So I think community, joy, and just empowerment of sharing our voice so we don't feel silenced. And wanting to be curious, like curious about not only what we're learning, but curious about each other. I have found as an adult recently, more so on the spiritual journey, that just like jumping on a call with you today for the first time to do a live show, it's because I'm curious. Like, I want to see where this goes. It's like one big experiment. And if every child comes from a place of curiosity about, I want to get to know these different people in my class. I want to know their background. I want to know who they are and have a safe place or a brave space to really share who you are, your authentic self. I would say authenticity is also something missing. So we need to embrace those aspects, I think, to move forward and make school a really great place.
I couldn't agree more. And this was the kind of the element. Where is the fun? It comes back to that, because even mental health can be made into a fun game and making sure that people are more comfortable exploring their feelings. Obviously, there's going to be some topics that are a little bit more uncomfortable to talk about, some feelings that are a little bit more uncomfortable to experience, but we're all sharing this together. And when we add the fun back into the everyday experience of life, we can go through it with more ease. And as you mentioned, authenticity is sometimes difficult to go through because people have expectations of how we should act and behave, and we don't want to disappoint them.
Mm,
But if we made it into more fun experience of, let me see how I can show a different aspect of myself today. Let me see if I can explore a different aspect of someone that I know today and challenge them. Bring that fun, bring that joy, bring that ease.
mm.
But
I love that.
let's talk about what it means to be a
Mm.
guided teacher. And this is something that I kind of put together after our chat: higher consciousness and higher teaching. So being guided by your higher self, but not necessarily trying to teach people into spirituality, rather guide them from your own connection with your higher self. What, how did you end up with the guided teacher?
Yeah, well, it was my own journey. I felt through the pandemic, as many teachers, administrators, parents, students, we were all feeling a little lost and just kind of burnt out. And there was a lot of questioning, especially around like 2021. And this is outside of education as well, as I've talked to many people through LinkedIn and other communities, is that people were questioning, like, who am I and what's my purpose and what's my
Mm,
real service to the world and service and community. And you have to do a lot of soul searching. So I took a lot of time through 2021, actually in going to therapy just to like work through all that stuff. And then doing a lot of inner work, a lot of inner child work, shadow work through an organization called the To Be Magnetic, The Pathway, which is based out of California. They have a podcast called Expand It, and did that work in 2022. And I just peeled back the layers and I went and I did a lot of hard work because I'm 40, I'm 41 now. And when you're older doing it, it's going to be painful. It's going to take a long time. You're going to have to unblock for a really long time. You're always unblocking. I still do this kind of work. And then I realized, oh my gosh, what if we started doing some of this inner work with children
yep.
early
Mhm.
on while they're fresh and they're ripe and like they could take it all in and like they can start to really understand who they are as an individual and connect to their higher self when they're in elementary school, middle school, high school. That could empower them to be so successful, not only for themselves, but for
Yep.
the world. We need leaders. And I believe everyone in some way is a change maker. You don't have to be doing something huge. You're not like saying, I'm the leader to fight climate change, but just through your kindness, through the way you listen to people, through the way maybe you have a community service project, you really care about animals, or like you care about, restoring, land to people or gardens or whatever that may be. But everyone should tap into what are their gifts and talents? Who am I? What is my authentic self? And then how do I shape that into something I give to the world? And so that's something I'm really trying to kind of create within a curriculum that's not based in a subject area. So my subject backgrounds are history and psychology. So I would say a lot of this also comes from my psychology teaching. And there's a lot now really going on in consciousness in that type of research. And then thinking more about how are we developing flourishing humans, right? If we're going to develop flourishing humans, we have to talk about consciousness and we have to talk about tapping into our inner self, our higher consciousness in order to really flourish, and then have every child as they become a teen and young adult feel empowered to give back. The whole idea is giving back. It's not just about this individualistic society of, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a scientist, but that could be part of my service. But your framing of who you are as a human and how you fit into this human experience and into the world is about, what are my gifts and talents? What is my authenticity? Always moving from that place. And then how do I shape a service that I can give to the world?
100%. I mean, it very beautifully said. And also, it's how can I create this, but also how can I share the creative process with the people around me? How can we get together with our unique strengths? How can we combine our authenticity and create some sort of alchemy around our authenticity, which is something very
Mm.
beautiful? which a lot of people haven't been given the opportunity to even think about. I think from our parents and grandparents, if you look back into the way they were educated and the kind of society that was designed there, I suppose, and resources that they had. We have more resources than ever when it comes to mental health and self-exploration. And I know we like to joke about the self-help section in the library or in the bookstores, but it's precisely those books that are guiding us back to ourselves. And there's always that one question that you're going to find in one book and then another question, and you put them together and suddenly, yes, I now know what I need to, focus on in terms of my inner work and research and creativity. But there's something that you said about the higher selves and reconnecting with our higher selves. I think young people, kids, teenagers, they're actually very connected to their higher selves, but they get disconnected because of the conditioning that continues. And it's like on and off, on and off. And then they get
Yes.
plugged into, an office job. And that connection almost disappears over time because they stop believing in their dreams. It's a little bit like
Yes.
in the movies when they say it's only real because you believe it's real. And that's the connection with your higher self as well. It's real because you believe in yourself. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you
Yes,
can bring that
absolutely.
change. But I suppose the question is, what if we all
Yeah.
believed? What would happen?
It would be amazing if we all believed that we could do whatever we want to do in this world and from a curious mindset and want to experiment with life. Like I often talk about, it's just all one big experiment. So, you know what? If something doesn't go the way that we planned in this lesson plan or whatever that may be, whatever, we'll start over. We'll figure it out. Like, let's
Try
just keep
again.
going. Yeah. And do that in a playful mindset. So, even though I also come from my training is social sciences, so history first, and then I really started to get into psychology. But I share this with my students that everything is a science to a certain degree because it's
Yeah.
about dissecting, it's about collecting data, it's about seeing connections, and then what do you do with it? And you keep going back to the drawing board. Your whole entire life is that. You don't get it just because you're 30, 40 years old, or you have a certain title, or you have a certain beautiful home or marriage, or whatever that looks like for you as success.
That
But
checkpoint.
the checkpoints. But your whole life is a science. If you look at it that way, like it's all about just going back to the drawing board, again, making connections, throwing things away, saying, tried that didn't work. Let's think about it. And not beating yourself up about it, saying I'm a failure, but saying like, I'm just always a work in progress. And every single human is. And if I come from a place of play and experimentation, like a child would, like a child does this all the time. If we go back to our inner child and think with a childlike mind, life is so much more enjoyable. And I'm not perfect at it every day. And I have my hard days where I'm very stressed out, but I'm starting to practice that more often. And my perception is changing and my energy is changing. And then in turn, the things coming into my life are changing. It's all energy too. So it's what you attract. And it starts with that mindset, that perception. I was just sharing with my students that your perception is your reality. You can change that at any time. And you have a lot of ownership over your life, more than you think you have. That you need that term in psychology we use is like the internal locus of control. That is way more powerful than external locus of control, because internal locus of control is I do have this power. I can do what I want to do in life and fulfill what I want to fulfill. And it just shapes everything else. And things just start clicking and falling into place. And things still will go wrong. Life is going to be life. You're
Predictable.
gonna, you're right. And you just keep trying. And again, I'm not perfect at this. And I'm not saying I'm like this every day, but I'm practicing it more.
We keep
And it
trying every
is,
day.
yes, and it is working.
Yeah.
Like it's shaping my mindset. I'm much more positive and enjoying things in my life much more than ever before. Not just saying through the pandemic, but even before when I was a teen or in my 20s. And so it really does work. But we can be teaching this to our children at an early age, and they're ready for it. Like I think they would just click and make sense if we were just talking about this.
100%. And in the process, we're teaching children how to be a little bit more responsible, how to connect the dots, how to, start building their own ideas. And they're teaching us how to be a little bit more playful. So it's a win-win when we develop that
Yes.
healthier relationship with the younger generations, wherever we are in our journey. I mean, if you're a kid watching this video, you're going to be at the younger generations. But
Exactly.
in the process of turning the growth into play, it's a lot easier
Mm.
to be more attracted by doing the work, because the work is, it's not easy. Looking within
No.
yourself, these big questions, it's not easy. But you're right, if we started earlier, these questions wouldn't be this difficult or this heavy to
Mm.
go through. um, but yeah,
Mhm,
all the
mhm.
all the most successful people in the world have failed the most. They just kept going.
Yes.
Success isn't something that, lucky people are successful. No, success is about the persistence and trying and experimenting. And
Yeah.
that's something that should be taught at an early age. Because even if
Yes.
we think about starting to walk as a child, you're going to keep falling until you learn how to balance. And if it's a
So true.
living, you might lose your balance once again.
Yeah, and success looks different. It's not a one size fits all, and we still have a society where it's still very much about your
Mhm.
job, your title, your degree, your relationship, the home or car or money in your bank account. And those are still very much markers of success. And I want to say that's a very, very small factor of success. And often that type of success does not equal happiness or
Yeah.
joy. But for me, when I want to have like someone who's an expander or a mirror to show me what success looks like, it's people who have peace. People who have peace and have joy and love in their heart, and they emit that out to the world and to people. And I can tell it when I talk to them. Even getting on this call with you today, I could feel that from your energy. And to me, that is success. And the people who have been coming into my life recently, like I mentioned, the More Joy community and just other areas, they've all been these people emitting that peace and joy and love. And to me, that's success. So I feel very blessed to have so many wonderful souls in my life showing me this.
It's about the grounding presence, because when people have found their niche in life, what they want to focus on, where they want to spend their energy, they're not in this rush to prove themselves to the world, because they found
Mm.
that they belong within themselves. So now they can give from this place of knowing. So now they can create from this place of, I understand. It might take a little bit longer. I understand. I know that every day is going to be, difficult, different. And it might be difficult, but that's, part of the learning process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same way about you. I think when a joyful person meets another joyful person, they just click together. So with that, let's look into your natal birth chart and kind of unlocking your soul purpose, because there's a lot of
Yay.
joy in it. So we have 12 houses, we have 12 signs, and each of them kind of belongs to a number of the house, and then each is responsible for something, a different area. And so I like to start this with your name with a little bit of numerology. So you have two markers for leadership. Your first name is,
Hmm.
you're here to lead the way by paving a new path. So leaving your mark in the world, but also in the last name. So leadership, that is inspire others,
Hmm.
leading by example. And your middle name is, you're here. The middle name is kind of like what your existing identity holds, which is communication. So you're here to inspire authentic expression of ideas, both you expressing your ideas, but also encouraging other people to do the same. And I'm going to connect this at the end to, tie it to your natal birth chart a little bit more. But this is leading to the life path 5, which is the path of
Hmm.
creativity. So life path 5
That's
is
so
about
cool.
entertainment, creativity, recreation, children, and play, which is very much aligned
Oh,
with what we've been talking about.
that's so
But what
cool.
you mentioned to me was that you had a different maiden name. So you had a different life
Yes.
path. Your first chapter, life chapter, was a different life path. And it's quite interesting that in your first life path, your last name, which is kind of like the glue that holds it together, was all about creativity. So you spend the first part of your life kind of communicating and exploring your own ideas, exploring your own passions, and using your right brain, which was actually connected to life path 9, which is the part of higher education. So you spend the first part of your life building your own philosophy of life, searching for meaning, focusing on that mind expansion and journey, so that now you can encourage other people to pursue their creativity, and you being that
makes so much
person
sense.
of leading by example because you've done the work.
Can I share something about my maiden name?
Absolutely.
Okay, so my maiden name is, my father's last name is Wanner, Wanner. And he loves to always say it means a tub maker in German. So we were tub makers in Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. But my dad's a creative. He's an artist. He's a singer. He is a photographer. He actually worked in the Navy during Vietnam War as a photographer. And the beginning of my book that's about to be out, and I know we're going to talk about that later, is about my dad sitting me on his lap and playing guitar to me and singing to me. And when I got my first Reiki session done, May 2022, she went to I think it was my left hand, and my dad's left-handed. And she went over after the Reiki, going over all the energy, saying something about writing and being an author and being a creative, and then something linked with my dad and being an artist. And this was well before I was thinking about writing a book. Wild.
I wouldn't say wild. I think everything is connected. All the pieces are connected. I think this is the beauty of discovering your natal birth chart and starting to work with what's there, because you can start applying the knowledge as early as being in school and thinking about how you can use the skills that you have. Because once again, when you change your name, you change your life path. But I've said that in the first episode that we recorded with Michelle, is this is all part of the divine plan. We're just unlocking the information when it's time, because I didn't care about any of this a few years ago, and I was redirected to think about that when it came to my life. And now I've kind of developed this formula to help other people. But it just makes so much sense, especially for the people that are trying to make positive difference, to know the skills that they can use and bring that authentic expression and that creativity.
Yeah, and the last name Scully, my married name, means a lot to me, as I also write about in the book about like getting married and like our early kind of experiences. But a lot changed as soon as like I got married. There was a great loss in our family on my husband's side, and then I was at a new school, the school I'm at now, and then the pandemic happened, and so it was really like this transformation into this new name. And I carry that name. They're both special to me, both my maiden and married name, but this my name now, because it does feel like the next chapter.
It is. I like to refer to it as a level up.
Level up.
It's a level up.
Nice.
So let's look into the elements in your natal birth chart. We have four elements. So air, earth, fire, and water. And these are the elements of the universe. And the more we understand what we have in our chart, the more we can work with these elements, figuratively or literally. So the air signs are all about information, knowledge, and intelligence. The earth signs are about integrity, identity, and safety, more grounded energy. And I like to think of them as great manifestors when it comes to creating products in the physical world. Fire signs, all about passion, purpose, and confidence. And they can reach quite deep into the psyche and inspire that in other people. And finally, the water signs, they're all about leading with emotions, with empathy and connections. And you have water all over your chart. You are the most empathetic person I've met based on your chart.
Wow. I mean, I believe I am a deep Cancer.
Yeah, and this is Cancer in the first house, which is all about leadership. So this is one more confirmation that you are here to lead with empathy. And this is kind of the person that you need to embody in order to accomplish your purpose, which I think you have already stepped into. This is, you've stepped into that Cancerian leader who leads with the joy, who leads with the empathy, and leads with forming connections where you can empower people using your emotional intelligence, which is very beautiful.
Mm.
And then you have Leo as your moon sign, which is who you're going to act as if you cannot rise to your full potential, as I like to think of it, which is kind of the existing identity in your consciousness. I like to refer to the consciousness as your database of information. We're here to analyze, research, experiment, and we're adding that to our own database. And your moon sign is who you already are. You've already unlocked that identity. And this is Leo in the first house again. So you've already unlocked that leader who can pierce right through the soul and get to the soul of the problem, not to the heart, to the soul. You can see the core. So all around leadership, you carry these
Wow.
leadership properties, levels, talents. But the beauty of this is that you get to use the emotions to empower other people as well.
Mm.
And so your communication style and love language are also Cancer. Surprise, surprise. So you can connect with
Wow.
people. You're going to connect with the rest of the world with your emotions because that is your natural element. You are just very comfortable exploring your emotions. You're very comfortable talking to people about emotions because that's not something that is, foreign to you based on the consciousness that you carry within. And the people that you're going to form the greatest bonds with, the deepest bonds with, are guided by the Cancer in the 12th house, which is all around spirituality, global mission, self-mastery. So the people that care about making a difference in the world, these are going to be your people. And these are going to be people that you naturally get attracted to because these are the people that share your vision for life and the people that you can create these communities and partnerships. And finally, we've got the South Node, which is what you're here to unlock and use as inner knowledge. It's what's already in your consciousness, and it's this grounding energy around self growth, work life balance, health, and well being, which is in the 6th house. Which is where maybe your book is coming from. You've kind of grounded that information on how you can help people using that knowledge, maybe. And finally,
Maybe.
the learning path, which is the North Node, which is what you're here to learn and become in the process together with your sun sign. And it's Cancer again, and it's again in the 12th house. So once again,
So much Cancer. And you know what? Cancer gets a bad rap. So, hey, everyone, I'm representing the Cancer and I'm going to be damn proud. Okay. Because Cancer is always like, oh, that's the emotional sign. That's so moody and go into your hermit crab shell, which I don't actually go into my shell at all. Clearly, I'm on YouTube live
you're an
right now.
example of a Cancer who's done the inner work. You're balanced.
Mm,
You're giving Cancers a good
thank you.
representation as someone who has done the inner work. I agree. But yeah, to tie it all together, you are here to lead with love, joy, and empathy, and be this spiritual teacher because you have the sun sign in Cancer in the 1st house and the North Node in Cancer in the 12th house. So very much aligned with what we've been talking about and kind of what you've committed yourself to creating, the change that you want to bring into the world. You're here to use your spiritual leadership knowledge, which comes from the moon sign in the 12th house, and help create structures for self growth, which comes from the South Node in the 6th house, and kind of use that creativity both for you to express your own creativity, because that's kind of your existing identity, but also pass it forward and inspire other people to use their creativity and the right brain a little bit more than the left. And finally, you're here to connect using your emotional intelligence and create mutually empowering partnerships committed to changing the world together because of the rising sign and Venus sign in Cancer in the 12th house. Any surprises?
No, it's great confirmation of, where I'm at in my life now. But, even like every step along the way since I was a child has been really, like, for the most part, my authentic self. Besides, like, I talk about this in my book, like putting the mask on when you're a teenager and in your 20s, trying to be like conforming and popular and all of that. But I've always known my path was in some kind of leadership, some kind of area of education. Even back when I was in college, I saw myself as a speaker. Funny, in high school, I wanted to go into journalism because I always thought like I would love interviewing people. And then I thought like I couldn't really do that because I didn't see myself having like a strong background in like the sense of like writing and like obviously media and whatnot. And then here I am with the podcast today and writing a book. So it took me a little long to come back around to that aspect of it. But no, this is beautiful. Your work with all of this with the natal chart is just, it's so beautiful. Thank you, Stella.
I'm more than happy to bring that confirmation to you, Jackie, because I think your story is confirmation of how we can use the spiritual tools available to get to know who we are so that we can help the world better. Because the more we know about who we are, the more we can bring that knowledge into creating positive change and being the role models that we didn't have. Because I know so many people get lost in the process of living because they think, well, that happened to me. Why did that happen to me? That was unfair. And instead of them looking at it as an opportunity for them to be the change makers, the people who can reverse that cycle, they get stuck into maybe the victim mindset. But I don't think it's, it's their fault. I think the system that we're experiencing, that we're all part of, is not designed to empower us. So we are the leaders here that are born to lead. They are powering through all the resistance to create the resources to help other people be empowered, feel empowered. Because I think all of us have felt disempowered, the ones that are trying to make this positive change. And that's why we're powering through it and saying, no, I am empowered, and I'm going to make sure that everyone I meet is going to be empowered too. And that takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of courage to keep trying, which is, going back to what you said, that you're not perfect every day. That's not the point. The point is that you keep trying.
Yeah, it's about integrity. You have to walk the walk to talk the talk, which is, a very common saying, but it's true. How can you lead when you haven't done the work yourself and you aren't ready to be vulnerable in your leadership? A good leader means you need to be vulnerable and you need to be able to listen to others and take others' ideas and come together and bring people into the circle. So when you're leading like a circle. You're not leading like everyone's following you, right? The idea of followers, I don't consider like, everyone's like, you got this many followers on LinkedIn or this many followers on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok yet. I might get there soon. I'm experimenting. But it's about the support in the community. So I talked about the spider web this summer. So it's like, if you look at followers, if you're truly coming from an authentic place and you're being vulnerable and you're sharing about yourself, you're growing the spider web. Yeah.
But you're speaking from a point of view that is coming from the leadership with empathy and love, which is your element. I think with people that have very traditional understanding of what leadership is, people that haven't done the inner work, or maybe are a little bit more into their masculinity, they still feel the pressure from society or their loved ones to not expose those parts of themselves because maybe they have been rejected growing up by the same people that love them the most because they were rejected. We keep passing that trauma until one person says, enough, I will accept myself as I am. And so it is. The cycle changes.
Yes, you have to stop the intergenerational trauma. And I see that as a big theme right now, not just like with myself and in education, but with so many people I've talked to, is that it's time to finally recognize the pain and what has happened for so long, and then see what's not working and say, it's not going to be like this anymore. I'm stopping it right now, and I'm going to be committed to creating a new cycle and being able to do this where we're genuinely doing it from a place of wanting to care about one another. We're in an era right now where it's all about love. And if people aren't about the emotions and love right now, and EQ is where it's at, not IQ, you're going to get pushed around in this energy, because the energy right now, I follow a lot of different people in the spiritual world and energy forecasts, and they're all saying the same thing, coming from so many different backgrounds, that it is all about love. And that is how we're going to produce change. And we're going to have to really start talking about our emotions and building our EQ, because that's the only way that we're going to progress, because we're moving into more of a feminine energy with the goal of then eventually the masculine and the feminine really being integrated. Yes.
And I think also reaching a hand out to those that are trying to bring us down because they don't even understand they're hurting, which is, the self-mastery of your emotional intelligence. When you understand that the person that's trying to bring you down is that wounded little child that's kind of like fighting against,
Mm-hmm.
their own experience so far. Why didn't they love me when I was
Mm-hmm.
little? Why didn't they understand me? Why didn't they appreciate me? Why didn't they accept me growing up? And this
Yeah.
is the trauma that's within
Yeah.
them. So being
Hurt people. Yeah. Hurt people, right? Like bullies, like there's a part of you that
it's
really
hurting.
has empathy for them because they're hurt people. And so we have to give kindness to everyone.
100%.
It starts from
Yeah.
that.
And you
Yes.
have that advantage of being a leader that can pierce and see right through the heart of the matter and offer that
Mm,
empathy. But I think
mm,
to come to the final point, one is not born into their purpose, one steps into their purpose. And it takes a lot of
mm,
work, it takes a lot of commitment. But once you see that how much of the world is still oppressed, suppressed, corrupted, and once you start to awaken to your own potential, you understand that it's an honor and a privilege to keep doing that inner work because you get to change the narrative in your own community, in your own city, and then maybe in your country and then in the whole nation. Because Rome wasn't built in one day. And once you step into your purpose, some days you're going to feel like you're not making progress. But once you look back, you're
mm,
going to see how much you've walked from where you were when you made that decision. I'm going to commit. I'm going to see how much I can, bring out from my authentic self into the world.
mm.
Um,
Yes,
and I think
absolutely.
this leads us to your podcast and your book, which are an example of what happens when you keep doing the inner work and uncovering the treasures that you carry. Tell us about how the teacher story was born, how the guided teacher was born as part of your awakening, and what are your plans going forward?
Thank you so much. So this was definitely both the book and the podcast. Podcast came out in May 2022 as manifestations of the inner work that I was doing and starting in 2021 into early 2022. And it actually just was me being so engaged in listening to podcasts. And I had an idea of writing a book, but I wasn't quite there confidence wise. I never saw myself as an author. Um, and I still had a lot of inner child wounding, I think, from school that was holding me back to seeing myself that way. So I always knew I like to speak and I like to get to know people. And I really was hurting for teachers and feeling their pain through, not necessarily like everything like I went through at my school, but across the nation, I was in these online spaces listening to what teachers were going through in the pandemic and how they felt like no one really cared for them or took care of their mental health. And so there was all this transitioning teacher movement that was happening in 2022. And so I felt there needed to be a space to start sharing these stories and not necessarily sharing about let's just have a vent session, talk about all the problems, but really start to come from a place of love and compassion and how each teacher and anyone else in education that I have on, they don't necessarily have to be a traditional teacher, but if they're in this space of education, how they have a vision for how it should be. So they're the ones in it and they're seeing it. And I want it to empower them because often those people don't feel like anyone listens to them or they don't have a voice and that they can't change anything. And so they have to leave the system in order to take care of
Yeah.
themselves. And of course, I respect that for every individual, what they have to do. And I needed to do it for my own healing. I share my story in my very first episode in season 1. And then I collected some friends who were very generous to sit down with me and experiment with this podcast idea. And I wanted to kick it off Teacher Appreciation Week in May 2022, because that was something I felt was very symbolic. And I wanted to give my love and appreciation to all the people in education. And then it just grew from there, from networking. And I was networking more than I ever did my whole entire life through like LinkedIn and other spaces. And people were just coming to me. And I really think, I'm a believer in God and the
Mhm.
universe. I feel like they were coming to me because I have this purpose and mission to first share these voices and share these ideas, and then get to a place of now, where do we go from here? Now that we've opened this up to the world and we're sharing all of these stories, what's the innovation piece? What's the next step? What's the change? What's the shift? What do we need to do? And that's kind of like now my next part with the book and with the season I'm in season 3 is all about innovation. And it's all about like taking the ideas and really like, what can we do with it? And then talking with people that are in different educational spaces. That's not just in like K through 12 traditional schools, but how we are all part of it together and how we're bringing in also student voices, parent voices, and, you know, working together as a team, and not just necessarily this vision I had in the beginning of empowering teachers, but all people in the educational space. And so naturally, I guess, because I came back to that idea of a book, I was thinking I have to tell my story in depth and really share narratives of what it was like for me as a child, that childhood light, which is my first chapter, to some of the things I went through as a student, that some things were light and some things were dark.
Mhm.
And then my transition into college, and a lot of light and shadow there. And then my first years as a teacher and my different experiences with that. And I've been in public charter. Now I'm in independent schools. This is my second one. So I've been in lots of different spaces in different areas of the country, of the United States. So I have a lot of perspective, and I've talked to a lot of people, and that helped me to have the confidence, I think, to write this book, because I felt like it wasn't just an idea that I had. I felt literally a push from the
Yeah,
universe or
that's how
God
it
or
comes when you're
whatever
sitting
people want to call
with
it.
higher.
It was
Yeah.
like pushing me, like, no, you're going to do it, and you're going to do it
Mhm.
now. And so just so happened, people were coming into my life that were able to support me, because it's a big
Yes.
undertaking to write a book, even more so than a podcast. And I linked up with people in the More Joy community. Cindy Cohen, who wrote a book, also linked me up with her book coach, Brian Monahan. And like all these people were just coming in, that it felt very much like, I can do this. This is actually manageable. I can do it. And I was on a very tight schedule this summer because I was traveling a lot, but I also had summer break. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this summer, and I'm going to finish at least the writing by the end of August. And then I can figure out the next phases into September, which is where I'm at now. And more people were just coming in and supporting me. And it was like confirmation from the universe that this is where I'm supposed to be right now. It's the most guided I've ever felt. And so naturally, that title just really resonated with me. It actually came in as a download in December 2022, when I just came back to the idea of like, maybe I want to write a book. And it just came through. And I wrote it down. I felt good about it. Wasn't really sure. And then by this summer, after I went to a spiritual retreat, it was like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is exactly what I need to be doing. And then the subtitle is Unveiling Truth to Light the Path Ahead, because it's unveiling my story, my truth, offering that vulnerability to light the path ahead, not only for people and all in education, but really for anyone who maybe needs that light. And so it's a story about school, about education, about my ideas for the future. I end with a curriculum called Connected Consciousness, but it's also a story that really anyone could read and feel like, wow, I've been there as a student, or, you know, I see this in my own child's education, or just a story of vulnerability, of like really dark times and needing to do that inner work to heal, and that you can come out on the other side and start to see all these beautiful connections and all this appreciation of the people that have come into your life. Because at the end of the day, I leave the book with the moral of the story. I don't want to give it away, but this theme of what's the moral of the story isn't just telling your story, or not just being this, you know, teacher or whatever you are, whatever your service is, but it's about this community. It's about all of us and how we're all helping each other get there. We're all helping each other reach those higher levels of our consciousness. And honestly, I believe it's a responsibility that we all have to be helping one another. You're helping me just by giving me this space today and telling me all this information from my natal chart. Like, that's helping me also in my path, on my path. So that's kind of where it's at. And now I'm just wanting it to lead to just sharing with as many people as possible, unlocking that potential in people who maybe need a little bit of that guidance and that light. I'm giving back for all the people who've been helping me and how God and the universe have been helping me. And so the story is, to me, it's not just a book, but it's a service. And I hope it resonates, with people. I also, a big shout out to Zennials. So if you're in like your 40s, like late 30s to like mid 40s, late 40s, this story is going to resonate with you. There's a lot of 80s, 90s themes in part one. So I have a lot of music theme, like different things where it's like cue up this song and it'll
It's
bring you back to an
interactive.
era. So
I
it's
like
fun.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun.
Well, you know what? I'm a firm believer that Earth is a school and we're here to learn. And that is why
Mm,
these Earth instructions, the natal birth chart, is essentially giving us clues to what have we already unlocked as part of, our consciousness and what we're here to bring into that consciousness, because it's all, part of the collective consciousness, and we're just divided into unique human beings with our own authenticity, which is why it's so important to step into our authenticity so we can accomplish what we came here to achieve. And whether we call it soul purpose or adding that further research into our consciousness, there's so many labels that we can put onto it. But it's a learning experience, and it's an experience designed to help us advance and grow. And as you said, to grow side by side. And there's a quote that I really
mm,
love from Paulo Coelho, from The Alchemist. When you want something, the whole universe conspires you to achieve it. And I think, especially when you start to
mm.
pursue that soul purpose, your calling, the universe pushes you into it. Your higher self is like, you're ready, even if you don't feel ready. But you start to see
Yeah.
this attraction point where you are attracting the resources needed, because this is so much bigger than just one person. One person cannot bring
Yeah.
this vision. And sometimes you're grounding these pieces, downloading the information, but you know that you're not here to achieve it on your own. You're here to share the
Yeah.
information, to empower other people and bring them on board as part of the leadership call that you're experiencing. And I think one of the things about the title that you have, Unveiling Truth to Light the Path Ahead, the biggest book
Mm,
that we have on earth, called the Bible, has this saying, let there be light. And the way that I interpret that is,
mm,
let the learning begin, because the light is symbolic of the
mm.
enlightenment. It's symbolic of
Yes.
bringing the truth, but also bringing the knowledge and kind of restoring that, maybe paving the path forward for the learning, because people have just lost their way. So all the leaders
Yeah.
today, the leaders of the new earth, they're adding the little pavement blocks to guide people. This is a path that you can follow to understand this, to learn this, because I learned
Mm.
it the hard way, and I'm going to make it easier for you. Uh, but
Yes.
yeah, thank you for sharing your story. It's
Thank
been
you.
absolutely
Thank you so much.
inspirational, aspirational, and motivational to hear your experience and your awakening to your purpose. I think one
Mm.
final question I have for you is, what would you advise someone who's considering a career as a teacher, especially now during this time of transformation?
Well, we need you. We need our educators. If you're thinking about being a teacher, and especially if you want to do some of this deeper consciousness work as a teacher, it is a hard job, but it is a job. I want to say job. It is a
Mhm.
service that has so much meaning. You are touching lives every day. When you see children light up, you see them play, you see their curiosity, you see them, wanting to be like the change makers and really be invested in taking care of the world. It's just unbelievable. I mean, there's so much light and love and hope when you see children learning. And for you to be in a role to help kind of shape that and give them this space where they can create and they can be curious and experiment and be in a safe place to make mistakes and share their voice. I mean, there's nothing better than that. It's beautiful. It's a human profession. I mean, you are connecting with humans and helping them grow and thrive every single day. And it takes a lot of heart. You have to have the heart for it. it's something where I believe like the greatest people in education have a very high and strong EQ. You know, you need to, because you're reading people all day long. And, but it's so needed. We need to help these children in this generation, and they want us working with them side by side and doing some of this consciousness work. It's just going to be so much better for them as they become adults. And by doing that, they're healing, and then they're able to help others heal. And then in the future, this is going to be so much easier, and progress is going to be so much faster because we're healing these wounds. Sorry, my earbud fell out.
I mean, if we started onboarding children on Earth without creating trauma for them, there might not be healing 50 years from now, 70, 80, however long it takes. You know, we're changing the way we're onboarding children. I like to call it onboarding because we're welcoming new souls onto Earth. And they are souls, they're humans that already have their individuality, their authenticity that just needs to be unlocked. And that's the beauty of elevating our consciousness as the educators, as the writers, as the speakers, the people that are researching how they can be better human beings. They're understanding that we all already have that authenticity inside of us beneath all the conditioning. But imagine a world where the conditioning was actually empowering you and encouraging you to connect with that authenticity from maybe not day one, but year one, when you start to like orient yourself in the world. But yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be a beautiful world.
Thank you so much. I just want to share, there's so many small things you can do if you are in like the teaching world, or just even as a parent, or, you know, you're working with children in some degree. So I did this quick little Google form check-in the other day. I started it during the pandemic, and I came back to it because I said, hey, we still need it. And it's basically like a mental health check-in. And I do it at the beginning of my class. It takes 5 minutes. And I'm basically asking them, like, what are your celebrations? What are your challenges? What are your goals? And what else do you want to just like tell me? And this is between me and you. And if you need a little extra support, I'm going to pop you an email. If it's something that's pretty like you need support, I'm going to, you know, say maybe we should be like talking to the counselor. Or if it's a big celebration, I want to celebrate you. And I said to them, you're not my students. You are humans having this learning experience with me. And I care about you. I care about you as a person, as a human, as a soul. And if I didn't, like, what am I doing here? Right? What am I doing here? Like, you're not just a history student or psychology student. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care what your grades are. I don't like grades anyways. But, you know, I want to know how you're doing. And then I do pop them an email here and there, how many I need to really respond to. And it's just like, it's surprising how it makes their day. And they're like shocked that I even like did something like that, or sent an email that said like something about, oh, you got a new job? That's awesome. I love that place. You know, I had one of those. You got your driver's license? That's so cool. You have this freedom now. And they say, thank you. They're like, thank you for taking the time to read all of these. I have 61 students or 65 students, and then write emails to like, not all of them, but a chunk of them, because it's my first time doing it this year. And I'll do it a couple of times a quarter. And it's so simple. It's just so like, it's not hard to ask someone how they're doing and then check in with them. And we should be checking in on our people, all of our people in our lives. And so I asked for people in education or working with kids, ask them how they're doing, be there and listen to them. It means the world to these children, to these teens, because often people aren't checking in on them because everyone's just so busy. So that's my ask.
You'll stick to the curriculum, make sure the responsibilities are covered. But yeah, we forget how to human. We forget how to be there for each other because we're constantly doing and performing and acting. And I think society is not helping in terms of mass media messaging, where we're conditioned to aspire to be something that, you know, it's not even real. You know, all the beauty standards and all the likes and the comments, that's not real. It's all fabricated. It's all designed to keep you distracted from your essence and from connecting. from the
Yeah.
heart, leading from the heart. But once again, it's something that comes natural to you as a leader who leads with empathy. So you're here to bring that change. And there's a lovely comment that Michelle left. I am so excited and proud of you for your upcoming book, Jackie. And I think that's a lovely place.
Oh, I love you, Michelle. She is just a soul sister to me. We're very close, and I know she's been on your show. What a great thing. What a beautiful community. I thank you for being here, Michelle. That was beautiful.
Well, great to connect, Jackie. Great to hear your story. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for being part of Born to Do It. I think we've confirmed you were absolutely born to do what you're doing right now, being a change maker in the education system and leading with positivity and inspiring the people that you come in touch with to use their right brain, to believe in their dreams.
Mm,
So thank you for making the world a better place.
thank you. Well, thank you for all of your gifts and talents and sharing all of this information with me about my natal chart and also just this beautiful conversation. It was just flow and easy. And we just met. Yeah,
This is how awakening
that's
souls
so fun.
communicate with one another. You know, the
It's just easy. You
just
don't,
easy.
yeah, you don't need to break the ice.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to reading your book. I can't wait to see what amazing changes you bring in society because I think this is just the beginning for you.
Thank you so much. And it will be out on Amazon early October. I don't have an exact date yet, but if you're checking me on the social media, especially LinkedIn platform, I'll be letting everyone know when it's out.
All right. I'll add a link in the YouTube description. And if you have any questions for Jackie, just write a comment and you can watch her podcast. I'm going to link to her podcast as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this, Jackie. Thank you for all the comments, Michelle. I'll go back to the chat afterwards and read them.
Thank you. This is beautiful. Thank you, Stella.
Thanks, Jackie. Lovely to connect. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back with another Born to Do It episode next week. And we're talking about,
I'm going to keep watching.
I will be talking about the secret ingredient that 10 of the biggest billionaires have tomorrow. So tune in.
Very cool.
Follow the
Yes.
path of money. Thank you.